your 2013 Washington Township Designated Teacher of the Year, Mr. Steve Perkins. Buzzed during the interview, and after the interview, it was the Department of Education calling to say that he is the top 10 finalist for State Teacher of the Year, and we are very, very proud. And what this means is that he has to go to the next step of the competition now, which involves a committee and talking to a panel and telling him how he helps each of you with teaching and learning every single day. He has to write another paper. So thanks to all the friends who came, and congratulations, Mr. Perkins, in the finalists, top 10 Teacher of the Year for State of Indiana. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations on being the top 3.
Wow!
So we're very excited for you.
Well, thank you. Wow, welcome. Oh my goodness. Awful lot of people in here. Awful lot of people in here. You know, it's just a Friday morning, right? We're just doing laughing here. That's all. So, awful lot.
Oh. Students, I want to let you know, as superintendent of public instruction, that your teacher has been selected by the Indiana Teacher of the Year Committee to be Indiana's Teacher of the Year.
Get over here. Get over here. Oh my goodness.
Are you surprised?
A little. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Thank you.
Well, we would like to kidnap you and take you downstairs. If you want to just grab your children and your wife and head back around along the way.
I gotta ask you, is there a class Oh my goodness. Thank you. Hey, bud. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, my goodness. It was overwhelming. We were just starting the work for the day. I mean, we had our warm-up activity going on, and one of our assistant principals had taken out some of my students, and we were joking about why he had taken them out, and the next thing I know, my door's opening, and what is this? And then when I see the cameras, suddenly I knew. I guess it was. I was stunned.
What separates you? Is there anything in your mind that separates you, that makes you stand out in your own work?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I've said this many times. I think the faculty at North Central is one of the finest faculties I've ever worked with. And truly, and this is not being falsely humble, it could be anybody. It could be anybody from the school, certainly. So I'd say there's nothing that separates you.
Mr. Perkins, congratulations. In the nomination for you, it said you make a dead language alive. You know, what is it that you do in the classroom that you make that happen?
No, I think we try to connect it with the students' lives, things that they're going to use in some way. We have a number of projects where we get the students out into the community using what they've learned to help others, and so I think that's one of the ways that we do that.
How did it feel to see the turnout there lining your hallways?
That was the most amazing thing. I certainly appreciate all the cameras, but I want to tell you it was the students, seeing them line the halls. I'll have my moment of crying later, I will tell you, because that meant everything. Absolutely everything.
All right. Just generally speaking, what does this mean to you? What honor?
It was exactly that. It's an extraordinary honor, and as I was just saying, you know, a faculty like we have at North Central, to be selected among that group, it means a tremendous amount. And certainly, initially, just to have been selected among your peers, just means a tremendous amount.
What will the rest of the school year mean for you? You stay in the classroom, then you get a chance to go work at the Department of Education. How's it going to go?
You know, I don't know. I'm going to have to actually talk with Glenda about that and find out what that really means. Yeah.
Anything else? Anyone else?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you
all so much. Thank you.
Proudly recognizes Stephen Perkins on his accomplishments and receiving the 2014 Indiana Teacher of the Year Award. Section 2, the council congratulates Mr. Perkins, thanks him for his commitment and dedication to the students of North Central High School and the education profession. Section 3, the mayor is invited to join in this resolution by affixing his signature, here 2, which he has. Section 4, the resolution shall be in full force and effect upon adoption and compliance with Indiana Code Title 36, Section 3-14-14. This special resolution was sponsored by Councilors Gooden, Evans, and McHenry, and was passed by the City County Council this 11th day of November 2013. With that, I so move.
Proposal number 357 has been properly moved in second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Back to the speakers.
Thank you, Madam President. And before we have a couple of words from obviously Mr. Perkins and Superintendent Dr. Nikki Woodson. I also wanted to say that today is not only the special recognition that the council has passed, but I want to read from a proclamation from the mayor's office, and I won't duplicate all the accomplishments of Mr. Perkins. But basically, to all whom these presents may come greetings, whereas the criteria for selection as Indiana Teacher of the Year are to inspire students of all backgrounds and abilities to learn, to have the respect of students, parents, and colleagues, to play an active role in the community, and to be poised, articulate, and possess the energy to endure a taxing schedule. And whereas his other accomplishments that we've talked about are recited by the mayor. Now, therefore, I, Gregory Ballard, Mayor of the City of Indianapolis, do hereby proclaim, in addition to it obviously being Veterans Day, November 11, 2013 as Stephen Perkins Day in Indianapolis. Complete. Although the media relations person issued a press release, we apparently still kept it from Mr. Perkins until now. He has received a proclamation and a plaque suitable for framing from the mayor. And with that, Mr. Perkins, congratulations.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the council. And I just want to say our superintendent here, Dr. Nikki Woodson, is fond of introducing herself as the proud superintendent of Washington Township Schools. And I truly know what you mean. Of the students we have, the faculty that we work with, and in the position now of being a part of the Teacher of the Year program, and seeing Ms. Canola earlier, to see the people that we work with and the environment that we get to be a part of as Indiana educators truly makes us all very, very proud, and I thank you very, very much. You know, I've been asked to say something in Latin a lot lately, and so I've kind of decided on, I think, my favorite thing, which is discípulos meos los amo, which means all of my students, I love you.
Thank you, President Lewis and members of the council. Thank you so much for this recognition. In Washington Township, we have 650 teachers, and he emerged as our Teacher of the Year and went on to compete at the state level. And we surprised him with a surprise announcement last month that he was the top teacher recognized by the state of Indiana through the Department of Education. He now goes on to compete at the national level for the National Teacher of the Year, and we think he has a very good chance. He has to prepare another portfolio, go through another set of interviews, and he gets a dinner invite at the White House with the president, where I think he'll meet his superintendent with him too, his proud superintendent. But thank you for this recognition. Thank you. Your proud superintendent of schools, Dr. Woodson. We are in Mr. Perkins, our Teacher of the Year's classroom, and we'll get to interview him in just a minute. I do want to thank everyone for the holiday break we just experienced with Thanksgiving, and I hope everyone enjoyed the week-long break. And in just a few weeks, we have coming up our winter break. In the meantime, we've had a wonderful award given to Mr. Auslander, a teacher at Allisonville Elementary. He received the Jacobs Award from the IU School of Education, and it's a huge honor for him. We also want to tell you that we have hosted the International Baccalaureate Authorization Site Visit Team to all of our secondary schools for the authorization for our MYP, or Middle Years Program, for IB. As you know, all of our elementary schools were authorized last year for our PYP, or Primary Years Programming, and we look forward to news from IB regarding all of our secondary schools. I'm excited to be here in Panther Territory today to interview not only our Teacher of the Year, but the Indiana State Teacher of the Year, Mr. Perkins. Mr. Perkins, thanks so much for allowing us back into your classroom. I know I've been in here several times to surprise you. The community has had a chance to see those surprises on our website, all of them from the time that we announced you in May as the District Teacher of the Year to the state announcement just last month. So since that announcement, give us a summary of what's happened.
My goodness, how do you describe a whirlwind? I mean, you know, it's kind of like with Maria. How do you hold a moonbeam in your hand, you know? It has been crazy. There's been obviously lots of interviews. I was able to do an interview. It's going to go out over headline news on CNN a couple weeks ago. I've had to attend conferences and give little talks here and there. And so it's been neat. It's been exciting. And boy, it's been busy.
And in the midst of all of the celebrations, if you will, you have had to put together a portfolio for the national competition for Teacher of the Year, where you will represent the entire state of Indiana. Tell us about that.
Well, I had a wonderful team to work with, members of the State Teacher of the Year Committee, Suzanne Whitten, who's the 2013 Teacher of the Year, and our very own Judy Frapps, representing our township, and those two were phenomenal, working with me as we went through what the requirements were for the national application. We even tapped into one of our own who is now in Virginia, Ed Coleman, used to be our English department chair, and he was our proofreader, absolutely. That's exactly right. No better proofreader. And so it was really a wonderfully collaborative process. Great. And we finally got that mailed off, and now we just wait.
And now we wait, but you also have some really big events coming up, one of which I bragged on when we were at the City County Council meeting recently, where you were honored. The mayor declared November 11th, Mr. Steve Perkins Day. Who gets their own day? Really? It was very exciting. But I bragged to the City Council that you get a visit to the White House. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I'm going to find out more details as we get closer. I know that's going to be in April, and I think it's about a week. We go to the White House. We get to meet the president. We get to go to the Oval Office, and there's going to be some nice opportunities to meet other, I think, legislators and people involved, the Federal Department of Education, and some people like that. So, looking forward to it.
Well, absolutely, very exciting. We know you will represent the district well. We are very excited about you in the national competition. But I also understand that this next year, certainly the celebrations that will come in your competition at the national level, but you will also be helping other educators.
Well, and I had the opportunity to do that this week at the CEL conference, which was here hosted by the University of Indianapolis. So it was an opportunity to meet with other educators, legislators who are involved with education, administrators, and have a chance to start to get to know some of them and start those working relationships. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
That's fantastic. Now, my favorite picture of all the celebrations was the moment that Superintendent Ritz stepped into your classroom. She had your two children on each side of her, and that picture in the front page of the paper of you hugging your daughter and your son by your side. My favorite picture of the entire series of celebrations. But tell me a little bit about what your children are saying at this point.
You know, they're excited, of course. They are the type who are a little bit shy when you get around a whole bunch of people. And that day, certainly when they came in, I was overwhelmed. Sure. And to be honest, when I saw my daughter, she was the first one I saw. I was excited, but it made me feel good. And I reached out for her, not as much for her comfort as for my own. I was like, I need somebody familiar here, and nobody better than Olivia. And then I saw Austin. And so, yeah, they're just excited about it.
Wonderful. Yeah. Now, you are very active already with allowing people to be a part of this journey with you on social media. Why don't you tell the community a little bit about those avenues so that they can follow the journey as well?
Absolutely. I created a couple of opportunities. One is a blog, and it's a very simple address, INTOY 2014, INTOY 2014.blogspot.com. And that's a blog where I basically am talking about educational issues, writing pieces, usually 2 or 3 times a week. And I've been fortunate that IU School of Ed retweets a lot of those and is sending those out to a wider audience as well.
You are an alumni?
Absolutely. Proud Hoosier alum there. And then I've also got my Twitter account, which is simply @INTOY 2014. So it's a way to keep up with some things that are going on in education and also those things that are going on particularly with this competition. And opportunities for me to give some shout outs too. Herf Jones was so nice and graciously provided me with business cards and stationery for all of this. And so as soon as I got those, they looked wonderful and just really, really great. I immediately put that out on our Facebook and Twitter and so forth because I wanted to show them some love and some support for that as well.
Outstanding. Well, Mr. Perkins, we continue to be so proud of you, of all that you've done and all that you will continue to do, representing now not just Washington Township, but the state of Indiana at the national competition. We'd like to conclude this month with a special little salute from his own students and Mr. Perkins in a very special armor.
Congratulations, Mr. Perkins!
Steve, don't forget to seize the experience, embrace the journey, and to continue to impact all the students of Indiana. So buckle up, get ready to go. This roller coaster begins now.
Students, I want to let you know, as Superintendent of Public Instruction, that your teacher has been selected by the Indiana Teacher of the Year Committee to be Indiana's Teacher of the Year.
His colleagues, close to 200 teachers in this building, voted and they decided that they wanted Steve Perkins to represent them. And it's for them that I say thank you for picking one of the best and the finest in our building to represent the school and now represent the state.
Steve is a leader in many ways. Obviously, he is a master teacher and a master at his craft, but amongst his peers and colleagues as well, he is looked to as a mentor teacher.
I was blown away right from day one when I met him about his commitment to the students.
He will do whatever has to be done to make sure that his students are satisfied and are learning.
One thing I'll always remember from Mr. Perkins' class, I think maybe just how much he knows. It's actually like remarkable to me, sometimes a little scary.
He just knows too much stuff. Like he'll throw offhand that he got copies of a manuscript from some British museum just for the fun of it.
Metaphysics will come into play and we're like, wait, I thought you were a Latin teacher. And
there are words sometimes that he uses that I'll make a mental note of and then I'll go look them up on Google.
He has so many different relatable topics like pop culture references. He'll talk about movies, music, anything to really get his point across. And a lot of times it's that strange fact that really sticks with us and helps us learn a lot better.
He takes a modern approach to it, and for that reason I feel like my attitude and a lot of people's attitude towards Latin has really changed.
He is just one of those people that you go by his class at any time and the kids are engaged, and that's the sign of a great teacher.
He truly cares about his students. You can see that in the way he teaches, in the way his light comes to his face when he hears about any of his students' accomplishments.
I just remember one time he put like brilliance on my paper that was like better than any grade or award I could have ever gotten.
His inspiration has really inspired me to possibly major in Latin in college.
You can see on his wall in his classroom all of the awards and accolades that his students have won, and that is a huge testament to his continued pursuit of excellence for his students.
He has the perfect speaking voice to bring an old story to life.
The kids will sit and listen if that's what's going to happen that day.
One thing that will prove you and take you to a positive way is loud and genuine laughter.
The most common thing you hear out of that classroom is laughter and a lot of joking around and smiles, and so yeah, it's just the best class period I have.
Can you tell us one thing that most people don't know about Steve?
He likes anything heavy metal. And he and I have that in common. We're both heavy metal fans, which you would not think of when you look at Mr. Perkins.
Has he ever worked that into his lesson?
Oh, of course he does. He even has, the Latin Club has a spaghetti sauce cook-off, and a previous student, Brandon Signorino, will usually translate some heavy metal set of lyrics into Latin, and then they'll play it at the spaghetti sauce cook-off.
Hoosier knows a good teacher makes all the difference. You know, we can all think of a teacher who changed our lives, someone who's on our mind right now, someone who saw more in us than we saw in ourselves. I think of Sister Rachel. I think of Mrs. Fisher and others who touched my life. But too often we don't invest enough in our teachers and allow them to lead as reformers. After all, they've dedicated their lives to education, and I believe we should do more to unleash their creativity and expertise. That's why I believe we need a teacher innovation fund to help teachers who are willing to try new ways to teach our kids. Innovative teachers like Steve Perkins, a Latin teacher from North Central High School in Indianapolis, whose enthusiasm has ignited a passion for classical education in that school. And it got him named the 2014 Teacher of the Year. Mr. Perkins and his family are here with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. I'm honored to have the 2014 Teacher of the Year with us today. As you know, we have many great teachers in Indiana, and Steve has been recognized by Superintendent Ritz as the #1 teacher in our state, Teacher of the Year. He's been teaching Latin at North Central High School since 1998 in Representative Hale's district. He was born and raised in New Albany. Representative Clear graduated from Indiana University, and he resides in Westfield, where Representative Braun and I share Westfield. And I learned at lunch today that he also goes to our church, Mr. Speaker, at Grace Community, although he goes at a different time than you and I go. So I'm just pleased to have him here. I just note some things in his resume. Among his several publications, he's authored a book called Latin for Dummies. Any of you interested? But he says his earliest memory of wanting to be a teacher was from his years as a kindergartner. And during this year, his grandmother, one of his grandmothers, came over for a visit. When she got there, he got out a piece of paper, gave her a quiz. When she finished, says he gleefully marked all the answers wrong. That was the beginning of him wanting to become a teacher. But he says in his resume that his life was never the same after he took Latin under teacher Miss Alice Rank at New Albany High School. He said he daydreamed about investing in students the way Miss Rank invested in him. And I'll just read you two quotes of several that some of his colleagues and parents wrote about him. It says, "What distinguishes Mr. Perkins as a teacher is his ability to motivate, inspire, and instruct students in a seamless manner." And from one of his colleagues, his lessons are engaging, his classes are full and overfull, and he creates interesting and challenging assignments. Students love him and regularly recognize him as the teacher who has meant the most to them in high school. Mr. Speaker, if it's all right, I'd like to give the 2014 Teacher of the Year, Steve Perkins, an opportunity to address the body.
Council stand in recess. Mr. Perkins. Thank you, Superintendent Mr. Finalist.
Well, I want to thank the Honorable Eric Turner, Speaker Pro Tem and House Member for the 32nd District, along with all the members of the Indiana House of Representatives, for the opportunity to be with you today. When I was a senior in high school 27 years ago, I could not have imagined returning to this chamber to speak to this body. In 1987, during my last year at New Albany High School in Floyd County, Indiana, we had the opportunity to take a regular government class, or one called TV government. I chose the latter and was able to travel to Indianapolis to film a program that involved my interviewing members of the Senate, the House of Representatives, and State Superintendent of Public Instruction, H. Dean Evans. My friend Rick Wilson was the cameraman and took footage of our handsome State House. And I remember returning home to New Albany inspired to run for office. Now, nearly 30 years later, I teach at North Central High School in Indianapolis. Our administration building is named for H. Dean Evans, who was our district's superintendent before leading the state. And I'm once again in a chamber that inspires me. It is often said that obtaining a good education has never been more important than it is right now. This is only true because obtaining a good education is just as important now as it has ever been. Around 380 BC, Plato wrote his famous Republic, a philosophical dialogue that tries to explore the ideal state. For Plato, it was only natural to devote 2 chapters to the topic of education. For as he observed, matters of education and education are linked to justice and injustice. He goes on to lay out a program of study that addresses the 3 parts of a human being: the body, the mind, and the soul. Plato knew that any curriculum that fails to address the complete person must fall short, not only in preparing that person for all he or she could become, but in laying the foundation for a just state. Hoosiers have known this as well. Our first Constitution of 1816 listed as our primary purpose the establishment of justice. Article 9, Section 1 of that original Constitution followed more than 2,000 years of shared human understanding linking education and justice by proclaiming knowledge and learning generally diffused through a community being essential to the preservation of a free government, and spreading the opportunities and advantages of education through the various parts of the country being highly conducive to this end, it shall be the duty of the General Assembly to provide by law for the improvement of such lands for the use of schools, and to apply any funds which may be raised to the accomplishment of the grand object for which they are or may be intended. In Article 8, Section 1 of the current Indiana Constitution, we read, "It shall be the duty of the General Assembly to encourage by all suitable means moral, intellectual, scientific, and agricultural improvement." Times change, but truth does not. From 4th century BC Athens to 21st century Indiana, human beings have known that a just state is rooted in and supported by education, which, as Plato described, must be nothing less than the development of the whole person. At North Central High School, I teach Latin, which is a microcosm of a complete liberal arts education. For in it, we teach the whole child by including math, art, geography, history, science, and performing arts. Whether we are marching drills as the Roman soldiers did or creating wax tablets and scrolls as we explore ancient handwriting, the study of Latin opens the door to a world of endless fascination and discovery. And we connect the exciting world of education with issues of justice from the beginning. We take as our foundation a statement by the great Roman orator Cicero. "Let others be ashamed," he said, "if they have so hidden themselves in literature that they can offer nothing from their reading for the public benefit, nor can bring forth anything into the light to be seen." This has led us to 2 annual projects, one to fight poverty in Indianapolis and another to help children at Riley Hospital. It has also inspired a new effort this year to build a literacy garden at a local elementary school. My 7th grade English teacher, Dale Rickmer, had a poster in his room that said, "The road to success is marked with many tempting parking places." We must resist the temptation to reduce education to nothing more than skills training. We must resist the temptation to see education as merely a ticket to a high-paying job. Education, of course, includes preparation for a career. But those who founded the state of Indiana knew and codified the idea that education is much more, a grand object, as they called it. I encourage each member of this House of Representatives, and indeed all Hoosiers, to remember the high ideal of what a well-rounded education can be, one that addresses the bodies, minds, and souls of our citizens. It is the type of education that led me to this chamber nearly 30 years ago when I was a student. And it is the kind of education that continues to flourish in many schools across our state, as indeed it must, if we are to remain true to our original charter of establishing justice. All Hoosiers must work to promote this deep and broad understanding of education, which is nothing less than the most humane and human of enterprises. Thank you.
Welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm your host, Taylor Bennett, here in the Kokomo Automotive Museum. My next guest was recently named the Indiana Teacher of the Year. Help me welcome North Central High School Latin teacher Steve Perkins. Welcome.
Thank you.
And congratulations on a big honor.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Well, let's talk about the big news. You were recently named Indiana Teacher of the Year, complete with a visit to your classroom by the State Superintendent, Glenda Ritz. Tell me about that day. Was it a complete surprise to you?
You know, it really was. I knew that I was in the top 10 and then in the top 3, and we knew that decision was going to be made sometime in early October, but that Friday morning it was a complete surprise. We just started our warm-up activity for the day, and I heard my door start to open, and I turned around, and suddenly we were being invaded by local media cameras. So
you're like, what?
It was quite the surprise, but then I saw Superintendent Ritz, and she had our children by the hand, and I immediately made a beeline for our little girl who's 8, and that was the moment of comfort, because in the middle of all that I thought, oh, a familiar face, my daughter. So
Well, it's probably no surprise to those that work with you. I mean, they were probably very excited.
They were. It was wonderful, and what was so neat, they had arranged for a good portion of the school, the students, to line the hallways. So as they led me out of the room for the press conference, there are all these students cheering and clapping, and that was the part that really meant so much.
Well, you're a Latin teacher. It's a position that's not typical anymore. How do you keep the education of Latin relevant right now?
That's a great question. And the thing is, Latin is really a course, well, it's a language class, it's really a course in the humanities. And so we touch on everything. We touch on we touch on law, we touch on architecture, literature, art. All of those things have come from the ancient world and influenced so much of the modern world. And then we also try to find ways to make it practical into students' lives. One of the things we're very keen on is community service. And our students have found some really interesting and some unique ways to take what they've learned in the classroom, out into the community of Indianapolis and to benefit others.
Well, since it is so unusual, do you think it should be reinstated along with cursive writing, like just something normal that it's required in school?
Obviously, I think so. I think it'd be great to hire more Latin teachers. I think we're always looking for what is the well-rounded educational package that we can put together for children. And anytime that we lean too far in one direction, we've really missed something. So as I point out to my students, really all the subjects we teach at in a high school fall under the rubric of the humanities. So you've got some science, you've got your math, your history, foreign language, English, and so forth. And really that forms the humanities, which is appropriate because we're about a very humane enterprise. We're about educating the full human being. And so we want to have as many aspects as we can in the school day that touch on that and really shape a complete person.
What do you find most interesting about it?
About the teaching of Latin?
Mm-hmm.
The students. You know, I've taught everything from middle school through undergraduate, and by far my favorite level to teach is high school. The students they're academically sharp, they're inquisitive, they're curious, they're creative, but they're also teenagers. They're fun, and so they're coming in with, you know, a concert shirt from last night's concert, or something to tell me that they'd seen on television, and that's the thing I like about it. You know, people will sometimes call Latin a dead language, and linguistically that's true because no one is learning Latin as a native language. But I've never seen anything so full of life. The students who take Latin are just bubbling over, again, with the life of humanity, and that's what I enjoy the most.
All right, quickly, can you say something in Latin?
One of my favorite phrases is discipulos meos vos amo. My students, I love you all.
Well, thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, Taylor.
I'm Taylor Bennett for Comcast Newsmakers.
Today, one of Indiana's top teachers gets to meet the president. Here's the moment Steve Perkins found out he's named Indiana's Teacher of the Year.
Your teacher has been selected by the Indiana Teacher of the Year committee to be Indiana's Teacher of the Year.
Big smiles and applause from the students back in October at North Central. This morning, Steve Perkins is in Washington, D.C., one of the perks of that prize. Mr. Perkins, good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
Tell us a little bit about your trip so far. That the presidential visit may be the highlight and the one that we'll all be eager to hear about, but you've gotten to do some cool things already.
We certainly have. We've been in D.C. since Sunday and started off with a monuments tour of the city, but it just went quickly north from there. We've been to the Smithsonian. It's been a wonderful day with Smithsonian educators. We've met with educators at the Department of Education as well. We had a wonderful gala event last night at the United States Institute for Peace. So it's just been a wonderful time of learning and celebrating teachers and education.
Tell us about the visit with the president. What's your understanding of how that will happen, and how much time will you get with him?
Not very much. Each teacher gets to have a picture individually with the president. And we get very little bit of time to say anything other than perhaps a hello and maybe a quick comment. Then there's going to be an event. It was going to be in the Rose Garden, but we've had so much rain here at DT that I think that they're going to move it inside the East Room. And that's when he is going to announce the 2014 National Teacher of the Year, which was announced yesterday morning on Good Morning America. It's a young man named Sean McComb from Maryland, and he's a fantastic young man, and all of us are going to be present for that, and Sean will get a chance to speak. Secretary Arnie Duncan, Secretary of Education, will speak, and of course the President will address that as well.
As you know, this president occasionally goes off the script, and if you would have the chance to maybe say a few more words to him than planned, have you thought of what you might talk about?
Absolutely. Our students have observed that President Obama's last name, when spelled backwards, is amabo, and that is a Latin verb, and it means I will love. So, as a Latin teacher, I feel that I might need to bring that to his attention.
Outstanding. A man who is prepared for a conversation that may never happen, but at least he, unlike the rest of us, will have the chance. Steve Perkins, congratulations again, Indiana's Teacher of the Year, and great good luck with the visit for the rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Scott.
You bet. It is 6:26. That's going to be a fun time.